Good morning, guys. Welcome to City Girl Gardening. I'm Dee, your City Girl Gardener, and I am here this morning in the garden. As you can see, I have some hardware cloth right here. I have been making some DIY trellises that I have put into the garden, and I have put tomatoes in them in the garden and attached them to one of my fence posts, with my zip ties. I cleaned up marigolds out here. I have had a busy week preparing for the Earth Day Fun Day activities with the kids over at the Freedom Temple Montessori School, and I've been busy with that, so I have not really had time to come out and see my first love. And my garden is my first love. This is where City Girl Gardening started, right here, and along my fence line right here. I still have 3 new garden raised beds that I purchased back in November, December, to put together and put along the fence line where I have the bucket. Um, I have a lot of things that I need to get done in the garden. We're going to harvest some onion and garlic that I planted in November because they are cold weather crops. And they needed to be planted in November so that they would grow out. They would have their cold stratification, and then as the weather began to warm up, they would start to grow and bulb. Well, as you can see over here, they have really grown out, and they're starting to get buds on them like they're going to grow flowers. So I am going to pull up the garlic and the onion bulbs today, and we're going to see how big the onions got, how big the garlic bulbs got. Even if they're not really big, I still can use them. I'm still going to allow them to dry out, and we're just going to see what happens today in the garden. So join me along as I show you some of the things that I have here growing in the garden. Stay tuned. All right, guys, before we get started with pulling the onion and garlic bulbs up, I want you guys to see the things that I have put out in the garden. These are all of my peppers that I started indoors in my greenhouse. I have some mild jalapenos here. I have some grand bell peppers. I have some sweet banana peppers, and I had more of the grand bell peppers here. I did have a tomato plant in here, but that tomato plant, it didn't do so well, so I just ended up pulling it up. But in this one here, I have a tomato plant that's here. This is my early girl tomato plant here. This is one of the DIY trellises, tomato cages that I made. I attached it to my fence post with zip ties. This is also one that I'm going to use, tomato cage that I'm going to use. I may do more of those with some of the hardware cloth that I have over there. But also in this bed, this is my hot pepper bed that's right here. In front of the sweet pepper and mild pepper beds. This is the hot pepper bed. I have habaneros in this bed. I have Carolina Reapers in this bed. I have Cajun bell peppers in this bed. I'm also going to put down some other things in this bed, and I'm in the middle here. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to have trellising up this trellis here, but I'm going to have something that's going to trellis up there. If you move a little further over here, this is my cherry tomato. So in this bed, I have cherry tomato here. In the front part of this bed, I have turmeric root that are growing here. Turmeric grows very well with the tomatoes. This is my first year growing turmeric, and so as I've been reading, turmeric root, ginger root, as well as my horseradishes, they can grow just about well with just anything. But I did see that growing with tomatoes was a good thing. I am going to put some basil seeds in this bed. I may put some beans here as well to make it a companion planting bed, because the nitrogen from the beans would also provide nitrogen for the turmeric, what it needs to grow up nice, healthy and strong roots in there. So I am going to grow turmeric tomatoes in this bed. I'm going to put some basil in this bed, and I may do some beans in this bed. And again, as you can see, this is my garlic and tomato bed here. Garlic and onion bed. We're going to pull those up in just a little bit. In this container, I have peppers. These are some of the leftover peppers that I had in my tray. And I really didn't know where I was going to put them, because I'm treating two of my beds for ants. So I sprinkled ground cayenne pepper and ground cinnamon in the bed to get rid of the ants. That's a natural way that you can get rid of ants without harming your crops, your vegetables, and your other things in your garden. Use ground turmeric and ground cinnamon, sprinkle it in the bed, and the ants will go. All right, we're going to come on the back side of the bed here, and then you can see here I did plant in this bed more onion. I have purple onion in this bed, as well as some of the green onion bulbs and sets. I got those sets from the feed Farmers Exchange, which is the feed store, our local feed store here, and I just fill this bed with onions as well. In this bed, I just have different varieties of eggplants in this bed. I went ahead and staked them because they had grown out and they were kind of falling over. I don't know if this one's going to make it. I started these in my greenhouse, but I can see from these two that they are taking off really well in the garden. I'm going to give this one a little bit more time, as well as this one a little bit more time, to see what it does before I pull them up. Here you can see this is my Italian oregano. This is from last season. This will grow all summer long. I do have a little bit of weeds growing up around it, so I've just been kind of pulling and picking those as I see them here. But this is my Italian oregano that I've been pulling off and harvesting from throughout this winter season. This bed here is full of mustard greens. It is time for me to take some of them and thin them out. But what I think I'm going to do is I think I am going to just continue to let them kind of grow out wild right now. And then as they can grow a little bit bigger, then I'll thin them out. But I have some purple mustard here. This mustard green grew up from the winter. It was here when I planted these other seeds, and I just let it stay there and continue to grow up. I do see I have some little weeds that are coming up here. If you have little weeds in your garden like this, just pull them up. But these are my purple mustard greens. I have tender mustard greens. I have some broadleaf mustard greens. And then you can see this over here is some English thyme that I had from the winter that is continuing to grow. And I'll harvest some more from that. Over here, I cleaned up one of my mums. This is one of the beds that I've been treating for the ants with the cayenne pepper and the cinnamon in this bed. Over here, you can see my horseradish. I have 4 horseradish roots that are in this bed, and they are just growing up. I am going to plant some beans along this trellis here that will trellis up in the middle of the horseradish. Over here in this bed, I do have a variety of kale. I have some different lettuces that are growing. This bed hasn't been doing very well because lettuce and kale are cool weather crops. The temperatures have gotten really, really warm here, and I think it's getting to be a little too hot for them to grow and thrive like I would like for them to. I'm going to let them sit just a little bit longer to see how they do. before I just go ahead and pull them up. But over here in this pot, I have more thyme. This is my German thyme. This is from the winter, as well. It is continuing to grow, so I'll continue to harvest from this. I do have weeds that are growing up here in the midst of some of the lettuce and kale varieties that I did put out. But this is my German thyme. Over here, I have bok choy, different varieties of bok choy. And as you can see, they have sprouted out. I could thin them out, but again, with this, these are cool weather crops. And they haven't been growing as much as I would like for them to. However, I am going to continue to keep them here in the garden and see how they do before I pull them up. This is my oregano. This is some Greek oregano from the winter. I am going to pull some of my herbs up today and cut them off. I do have some twine, that I am going to get and bunch them up and allow them to dry out so that I can have some fresh herbs. I can have some dried herbs as well as some fresh herbs. And look at my chamomile. This is my chamomile. Over here you can see my lavender. This chamomile looks very pretty. I love it. And then you can see my petals here. I have more chamomile that's starting to grow down there. My little flower buds. This is my lavender plant here. With the lavender, it is starting to grow and flourish back up from the winter where the leaves and things fell off of it. This is another one of my hot pepper beds. This is more Carolina Reaper. Nope, excuse me. These are cayenne peppers. These are peppers that I grew in my greenhouse, starting greenhouse. Cayenne peppers. I have a hot pepper mix here. So I don't know what those are going to be, but it was a mix of habaneros, jalapenos, some cayennes, some Cajun bells. It was a packet of mixed peppers. And so I'm going to wait and see what I get from those. And these are some jalapeno plants here, spicy jalapeno. This is my beautiful peppermint. I'm going to harvest a lot of this peppermint and I'm going to tie it up and allow it to dry. I'll be able to have some fresh mint in some of my drinks, detox drinks, my water that I like to drink. And then I have my spearmint over here as well. And I'm going to harvest some of my spearmint and let it dry as well. And then with the spearmint, just like this peppermint, it will continue to vine and grow out more. It's very invasive, so that's why I put them in my planters by themselves so that they can sprawl and just kind of just do their own thing in their own space. And I'll just pull and pick as necessary. As I've been waving my hands across the peppermint and the spearmint, you can smell the mint aroma coming up, and it smells really, really good. And I have it now on my hands. It smells good. This is my rosemary. This one is starting to grow back out with greenage on it. This one had dried out pretty good for the winter, and so this one is done pretty well with growing back out, so I'm going to cut some from that as well. I do have over here my fruit trees. I have to get these guys cleaned up. These are my raspberry, golden raspberry, and my blueberry trees that are here. Bushes, that are here. So I'm going to get those guys cleaned up. I'm going to check in here and see what my girls are doing. These girls here, look at them. They've gotten so big. I did come out. There were 6 in this bed, and I did come out yesterday, and one had died. This bed is consisting of my Americanas and my 2 Easter eggers. I'm thinking those are that are left. I'm not quite sure what those are because they were the 2 that were left from the bunch that I had 6 to die. But I have 5 girls that are left in here. And yesterday I filled up both of their feeders and their waterers in here. And you can see there's, well, maybe you can't. There's 2 in the house there. And then we got the 3 that are down here on the bottom. So me checking in on these girls for sure. And they're very pretty. I love the brown colored ones that are down here on the bottom. And then of course you see the girls back here. They've been waiting on me to come and talk to them for a minute. See what they got going on. They have water. And then look at here. We got Alberta, because Kathy's up there on the bar. I can see her white feather over there. That's Alberta in the box over there. She's laying. And then on the second, you see the eggs there. They've laid down there on the second shelf there. And then she's going to start laying and filling in on the front. But this is the garden thus far. This is another bed that's been treated. So these 2 beds here, which are side by side from one another, these 2 beds are being treated with the cayenne pepper and the cinnamon for the ants. I have not put anything in this bed yet. This bed is going to have to be cleaned up, weeded out really good, and then I'm going to have to get some of the leaves and things turned over in them, because they'll end up being composted and providing nutrients for the garden. So I don't really complain about a lot of the leaves falling into the beds, because I just turn it over and they provide nutrients as they're decaying in the garden beds. So I'm going to get this bed cleaned up. I am going to trellis some cucumbers, some beans up along this trellis. I'm going to plant some cucumbers here as well. And I'm thinking I'm going to put some corn towards the end on these beds here. So this may be a 3 sisters bed here with the corn, beans, cucumbers, and this bed. And then over here on this big trellis as well, I'm going to do some cucumbers. I'm thinking some beans and something else in this bed to make it a companion bed as well. But we're going to get started with pulling up our garlic and onions to see what the bulbs are looking like. So stay tuned.